All right, moving along here on a Thursday afternoon. John Dickinson and Alan Stiles were in for Damon and Ratto on this Thursday. It's a pleasure to be joined by 49ers legend, three-time Super Bowl champion, Randy Cross, joining us here on 95.7 The Game. Randy, thanks for taking some time out. We appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Really well. I know there's a lot of Big 8 fans out there or Big 12 fans out there. They just can't wait to see that Stidham-Purdy rematch.
That's a good call. And one of the big questions coming into this week is, how do the 49ers kind of keep their edge? I mean, Purdy's played obviously at an extremely high level for San Francisco. You've got the Raiders, going a different direction, basically firing Derek Carr with 2 games to go as their quarterback who's been there for nearly a decade. But how do the Niners keep their edge in these last couple of weeks here where the division's sewed up, but they can move up to 2, but 2 doesn't get you a bye anymore like it used to. But an extra home game can be beneficial as well, Randy. How do the Niners keep their edge these last couple of weeks?
You got to play to your standard. I think that's the most important thing. It's not like it's changed because the goals are still the same goals, and you got to change. Your play's got to be at that same standard now. If you have a chance with some of your starters later in the game to get them out and get some other guys in, that's great. But, I think it's the playoffs in the NFL are littered with teams that have gone into the playoffs coasting and gotten smacked when they got into the playoffs. So you play every game no matter whether it matters to you or not. You got to play it at the same level. I think they're fine with that. That's what they're doing. That's what they've done for the last 8 weeks. I mean, they're the one team in the NFL nobody wants a piece of, and I think the reason nobody wants a piece of them is they game in, game out. They play the same intensity, everything else. So, you wouldn't want to see a sudden, relaxation because that's never a good sign out of a football team.
Randy, I'm curious your thoughts on, of course, this whole Brock Purdy situation, because I think a lot of people have been saying, well, this isn't a QB-dependent offense, and it's not like he's being asked to be Mahomes or Josh Allen, anything like that. I think it's getting close. It's getting close to where it's starting to sound like people might be maybe not giving Purdy enough credit, at least maybe nationally, not so much in the Bay Area. Can you speak to what you've seen from Brock Purdy and literally how tough it is? I don't care how QB dependent or independent an offense is to step into something as the third stringer and to not see a drop off, what that means for Brock Purdy and what it does for this Niners team.
I think the number one thing for not only for Brock Purdy, but for all Niner fans is take a chill pill and enjoy what you're seeing. Don't, it's never been quite good enough. Jimmy G goes to the Super Bowl, goes to the NFC Championship game. Can't wait to have Trey Lance in there. Trey Lance gets in there. He got hurt. And then Garoppolo gets back in there, and he's missing wide open guys, and he's just not a long ball guy. Enjoy what Brock Purdy does, and don't worry about what he doesn't do well. The kid, what he doesn't know would fill the Smithsonian Institute, but he's having so much fun. You can tell just by watching him. And Kyle Shanahan and that coaching staff are doing a really good job getting him ready to play games. So that's the one thing I plan on doing for the next X number of weeks is just enjoying what I'm seeing. And I'm watching a great defense. And what's the downside? You're going to run the ball, and you're going to play great defense, and your quarterback's going to be able to hit wide open receivers or, make some pretty spectacular throws on the run. I don't know. It's way too early to start, changing the entire direction of a franchise because a quarterback's won, a handful of games in a row. But man, you just gotta enjoy it and know you've got 3 guys that can take you to a Super Bowl. And there's a pretty short list of teams out there in the NFL that can say the same thing.
Randy Cross joining us here on 95.7 The Game. And, it's interesting because coming into this season, one of the big questions, obviously, it was going to be Trey, and then Jimmy wound up being the backup, and then Purdy is in there somewhere. I mean, he won the backup job, at least according to Kyle Shanahan, before everything came together, and Jimmy didn't have a spot, and they restructured everything. But one of the next biggest question, I think, on the 49ers roster was offensive line play other than Trent Williams, who's going to the Hall of Fame, and we all know how great he is at left tackle. What have you seen as far as just the Niners' offensive line, in particular on the interior, to where they've been able to hold up and be successful at the level that they have been to allow everything else to function as the season has gone on?
Yeah, I've loved watching what they've done. I've been impressed by Banks. I think he watches a little bit of 71, and he's got a little bit of that dog in him too. And then the guy that's been, to me, kind of fun to watch, and it's always fun to watch, Williams. He's amazing. But McGlinchey has played pretty damn well. And you almost look for everybody but the left tackle to make mistakes, and they're just not making that many mistakes. And you're getting that running game going, and they're covering people up. And it's not all just going to your left. In fact, that run last week was spectacularly blocked. What was it, 60-something yards? And I mean, you just don't see plays like that very often. Yeah, I mean. And granted, you're going to come up against some pretty tough defenses, and sure, but I think they're good enough to go as far as that you want your team to go. The big thing's going to be just healthy. If those guys, especially the guys up there on that offensive line, if they can stay healthy, the D-line stays healthy, this is going to be a team you don't want any part of in the playoffs.
Randy, Nick Bosa, to me, should be Defensive Player of the Year, and I don't think that's a unique take. I think a lot of people feel that way. If you were still playing today, how would you try to stop Bosa? If that's possible.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. The way that he plays, and I hope people kind of appreciate what they're seeing, because I played with a guy that I think was the best pure pass rusher ever in Fred Dean. He had the techniques. He was just unbelievable. The effort with which what sets Bosa apart is he can go so hard for every damn play, and that's what wears an offensive lineman out. There are offensive tackles in this league that, yeah, a good amount of the time they can block Bosa. The problem is he's going as hard on the first play as he is on the 60th play. And, it's that wears an offense out, that wears an offensive line out, that wears a quarterback out. And you've seen it in some of these last few games. Those quarterbacks are starting to, and they may not say they never do, and they don't look they don't look at the pass rush, my butt. If Bosa's coming at you from whatever side he's on, you're really aware of where he is, because they're just not stopping him. They're slowing him down on occasion, but they're not stopping him.
Well, and then the Niners get a lead in a game, and it's just the turnover factory comes, right? Like he starts heating guys up, and they start throwing it quick, and the strip sacks come, and that's where the Niners have turned some relatively close games into blowouts. I want to go back to Purdy for just a second, Randy, and just get your thoughts on what surprised you most, his ability to hit the plays that are schemed up, because I think that was the bane of at least from the fans, Jimmy Garoppolo's existence. He was good, but there'd be 3 or 4 plays a game that Kyle would scheme up that should be explosive plays or touchdowns, and he'd miss some of them, and everybody would pull their hair out. Is it Purdy's ability to hit those plays, like the Kittle touchdowns from this last week, or is it the escapability, the off-schedule stuff, the ability to, oh boy, there's a rush, let's play a little backyard football and still make quality throws?
I think there's a lot of people out there, or maybe not in the Bay Area, because I don't imagine there's exactly a multitude of Iowa State booster groups in the Bay Area. But, this kid was pretty damn good in college. And, the problem is when you're at a smaller school and you're not in the SEC and you're not in the Big Ten and you're not in Oklahoma or you're not at Texas or you're not, you don't get noticed as much. But he did a lot of the same stuff when he was in college. And that's, if you're surprised about anything with Brock Purdy, I think it's the fact that he has taken his game and he's transposed it into the NFL. And most guys can't do that. The stuff you get away with in college, you don't get away with in the NFL. And, I think he's smart enough to know that. He's smart enough to adapt. But he's also doing the stuff that he's always done well. He's incredible on the move. And, if you make a mistake, he's going to see it. And that's all you can ask, out of a quarterback. I'm really interested to see what happens when this regular season is over and the playoff starts coming around. And, teams are starting to say, oh, what are we going to – it's playoffs. Is this kid going to be different? Is he going to tighten up? Are we just going to go after him? Are we going to treat him different? We're going to – we're going to go after him and make him beat us. And that's what he did in college. He beat teams. Iowa State obviously didn't win, 11, 12 games every year, but they won a lot of big games. And that's the kind of style of play that he always had.
Randy, you know what it takes to win Super Bowls, and when we talk about this defense, the Niners defense, and this word that gets thrown around, historic, do you think this Niners defense could definitely not the Raiders defense. Do you think this Niners defense could be historic? And is it just as simple as to be considered historic, you have to win a Super Bowl and go down in history?
Yeah. I'm not trying to cheapen anybody's efforts or anything, but, what was the best Chicago Bears defense they ever had? Was it 84 or 86 or maybe 85 when they won the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Same with the Giants, with LT. And you start thinking about the great teams, you win championships. It's not, that defense was the best I've ever seen. But if they only had an offense, they could have been okay. Well, you know what? Most of the defenses of the best you've ever seen didn't need a damn offense. Look at the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
Look at Tampa. Go down that list. So, yeah, this is as good a defense as I think San Francisco's ever had, and it's got a chance to be the best. And to me, I made a comment on Twitter about a week or so ago. Somebody was saying, well, is it the 94 defense or the 12 or is it this one? And I was like, well, you might want to look back at 84, at that roster, the 84 defense with Pete Marino. So yeah, I think you're on the right track. If you win a Super Bowl, that's the best way to qualify yourself. Because if you don't win a championship, you don't qualify as the greatest in anything.
Yeah, and that 84 team, obviously, 15-1 you guys were in 84, and then beat Marino in the Super Bowl. Yeah. I got to ask you about Christian McCaffrey. He 8 starts, they're 8-0. Just how much and in what ways has he changed everything for the 49ers offense? Because now it really does seem like they had weapons everywhere, but he seemingly has helped unlock all of the weapons by being maybe the number one weapon.
Yeah, it's kind of and it wasn't cheap. It wasn't, they didn't exactly give him away, but even though he makes that offense so much better. It's pretty crazy. It's kind of like NFL grand larceny. The fact that you can get him away from Carolina, but you dream about being able to make those kind of trades. You dream about being able to do those things. And if you look at some of the great Niner teams, the 5 that did win championships, that's a pretty consistent theme on all those teams, is getting guys from other teams and adding them. Whether it was the guys who got from San Diego or whoever, that's pretty consistent. And for Lynch to pull that off, You can't say enough good things about being able to do that because McCaffrey he's fun. He's just every time he runs with the ball, he's going to run. He's going to go to the end zone. It's crazy the way this kid plays. He is an offensive version of Bosa in that he is going completely 100% every time the ball's snapped.
Randy, great stuff. We really appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you again soon, man. Tremendous insight on everything. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime.